Hi guys, my name's Matt Winton. We're simply pouring all of the water all at once. Cheers. Hi guys, I'm Matt Winton, 2021 World Brewers Cup champion, and I'm here to show you some of HARIO's products. And you can check out some of the other videos that I did to explain some of the other different devices that they have and how I can help you brew better coffee at home. Today, we're going to be covering the HARIO Switch. Now, this is one of my favorite devices to use. I've seen it on the world stage in Brewers Cup competitions, and I also use it at home for a different way of brewing. This brewer has a switch, which is going to help you totally stop the flow or let it flow through regularly like a glass V60 would. This gives you a huge advantage because you can both do immersion brewing and drip brewing. And immersion brewing is simply when we have our coffee and our water all combined in one, and it's going to give you a full extraction without having to worry too much about different types of pouring. I like to use this style of immersion brewing if I am a bit busy or if I just need to have a simple recipe to do. Today, I'm going to be doing an immersion recipe with you. We're going to have 16 grams of coffee, ground very similar to our V60, and we're going to have 240 mils of water. And today, I'll be using water set at 93 degrees. If you don't have a kettle with an electronic temperature control, you can also just bring it to the boil and then let it sit for 30 seconds or a minute to reduce the temperature a little bit, and then pour straight away. And it's a very simple recipe today because we're just going to pour all the water at once with the valve closed. Then we are simply going to let it sit for 4 minutes. The coffee and the water will extract and get you a really, really tasty brew. At that 4-minute mark, we're just going to open the switch, let it drain out for 1 minute, close it, and enjoy our coffee. This is something that you can do in the morning if you're a little bit pressed for time, because you can simply put the water in and walk away and continue to do other things, and then come back at that 4-minute mark to finish off your brew. For the coffee, I've pre-dosed my 16 grams here, and I'm going to be using the HARIO hand grinder. The HARIO hand grinder I love because it's really portable and it's easy to travel with, and it's a great way to start off when you're grinding your coffee. But sometimes my arms get a little bit tired and I don't want to keep on grinding manually. Luckily, HARIO has a solution for this. We have the Electro. This is going to help you with your grinding. It's an electric way of grinding your coffee with a hand grinder. It's really easy to use. You simply take the handle off, attach the adapter, and then you're ready to grind. I really love this attachment. The Electro makes hand grinding so easy. Our next step is to get our HARIO Switch ready. So I like to pre-wet my filter. I use a 02 filter, so it's all the way to the top of the dripper, and I preheat with some hot water. So next, we release all of the water from our switch, and we're basically ready to start brewing. Don't forget to lift it back up to stop the flow before adding your water. So just to remind you, this one is a 16 grams to 240 grams of water. We're going to let it sit for 4 minutes before we press the switch. So this one's a really easy pour. We're simply pouring all of the water all at once, making sure the coffee is totally wet, up to 240. I like this recipe because you don't need a gooseneck kettle. You can achieve exactly the same thing with a regular kettle at home. So now we just wait for 4 minutes. HARIO has several different sizes of the switch. This one is the 02, but there's also the 03 size if you need to do a larger quantity for your immersion brew. When we had our normal V60 5-pour method, we kept on applying fresh water every time the last one went through. This brew took about 3.5 minutes, but this brew now is going to take a longer time, 4 minutes, but it's a total immersion. There's no extra water added. So it's going to be a different style of extraction. As you first add the water, it's going to start extracting really quickly, but then over time it slows down. And you're going to end up with a brew that's more round and structured. And personally, I like it because it's so simple to make and the taste is so great. So now we're getting to the end of the brew. Time to press the switch. I like to give it a small swirl just as the drawdown starts to happen in order to catch some of that coffee around the edges. Then it's going to sink to the bottom and we're going to have an extra extraction from the water coming through the coffee down to the vessel. I like to let this one drip through for about 1 minute. I found that if you let it go for too much longer than that, if there's still coffee in there, it can start to taste a little bit bitter. So 1 minute should be all we need for a drawdown time. So this is a really versatile dripper. You can do percolation and drip, or immersion, or both all in one. And now that this drip is starting to slow down, I'm going to stop it, and you see the flow totally stops. It's a full immersion. Then we have 1 cup of delicious immersion brew, filter coffee ready to go. I'm going to be pouring this one into my MIOLOVE cup because it's really easy to take away and being insulated holds the temperature really well. So we just went through our standard immersion brew on this HARIO Switch, and now I want to show you something that's a little bit more advanced, but you could start to play with as you start to get more interested in how the HARIO Switch works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first do a bloom of 50 grams with the switch open. This is going to draw down the first parts of the coffee that are extracted, and then after 30 seconds, I'm going to close the valve and pour up the rest to our 240 mils, which is going to sit in a full extraction afterwards. This is going to give you a bit more complexity and structure to the brew, and when you start to play around with opening and closing the valve and using it as a drip or an immersion, you're going to get some really cool results. So I'm once again using 93 degrees of water, 16 grams of coffee, the same grind setting, and we're going to go up to 240 mils. So with the valve open, we're going to be doing our first bloom of 50 grams and letting that run through. After this, we're going to be replacing all of that water that is now coffee with fresh water and keep on extracting. This is going to give you a slightly different taste to the original full immersion brew. So now we're coming up to 30 seconds. We close the valve, stops the flow completely, and we do the rest as a full immersion. And I'm going to be adding up to 240 mils. Perfect. Now we're going to let that sit until the 3-minute mark, then we'll draw it down. If you need to do a larger volume, I could recommend you doing this same recipe, but perhaps you could try 24 grams of coffee and use 360 mils in your total brew. And for this, you would need the HARIO 03 size switch. This is simply the same mechanism with a bigger dripper that's going to accommodate more of that water. So the first part of this bloom is really concentrated. We've got a lot of acidity and fruit notes sitting right here underneath the cup. Then what's being extracted above is all new. It's stuff that's got more body, it's got a little bit more texture and more depth to the flavors. So now we're approaching the 3-minute mark. I'm going to open the valve, give it a small swirl, and we're going to let this simply drain through. I really like using this stand with the switch. It fits perfectly onto the scale and means that once I've stopped my flow, I can simply take the carafe away full of my delicious coffee. So using this sort of a brew where we let the bloom drip through and then the rest of our brew gets extracted, we're going to end up with something that has a little bit more layers and complexity to it. We've started our extraction, then we've stopped it, and we've started it again, and then now we're drawing down through to stop it again. It's just a new way of brewing that's going to give you a different result. Not necessarily better or worse, but I'll leave that up to you to experiment and find out what you like. Now our flow is slowing down, so it's time to stop our brew and enjoy. Smells good. So thank you very much for watching our video on the HARIO Switch. I'm Matt Winton, 2021 World Brewers Cup champion, and I've got to run now. But Make sure that you watch some of the other videos we have for the recipes and techniques on different HARIO devices. See you later.